There has been some massive news this week for former All Blacks captain, and I say former All Blacks captain because Sam Cane has decided to call time on his international career after this year. This could be his 12th and final year in the All Blacks environment. He will not be captain this year. He stepped away from leadership duties and he signed a new 3-year deal with Suntory's son Goliath in Japan starting in 2025. I caught up with him a little bit earlier and I asked him, how did he come to this decision to call time on his career?
Look, it's been sort of brewing away in the background for a few months. I think I played the first 7 games for Suntory, and then they came to me with an offer. Originally, the plan had always been to come back to New Zealand, but when it was a 3-year contract versus the 1 extra year I had in New Zealand, something sort of had to seriously consider. Just I'm not getting any younger. My body's taken a little bit of a hammering over the years, and just I suppose, as you know now, but like once you've had kids, like your priorities change pretty quickly, and you can't really understand that like until you get into it. And that's sort of where I'm at in life now. And just by having the security of a 3-year contract, will allow us to spend a little bit more time as a family, but also like hopefully post rugby be pretty well set up to be able to take a bit of a backward step from sort of work life, and just be really present with them. So yeah, obviously there's like 3 or 4 different factors in there, but that's how we sort of come to make the decision that we did.
Okay, Sam, so tell us, what is motivating you? Why did you not just call time and finish up on the Rugby World Cup final last year? You're 5 test matches away from 100. Is that motivating you?
Oh yeah, like I'd be lying if it wasn't. But also like that's sort of just how the contract was structured. You know, I'm actually technically contracted with New Zealand Rugby this year.
Yeah.
Look, and to be fair, like they've been outstanding throughout this whole process. New Zealand Rugby allowing me to get out of my final year, but you know, I had to see out this year's contract, which sits really well with me because yeah, I'm just pretty driven to still you know, have one last crack at the All Blacks, whatever capacity that may be. I know there's like this could be my 12th year, so I know like there's never any guarantees with the All Blacks, and you've got to earn your spot and prove it. So like that won't change, and probably even more so reinforces it now with some new selectors in place. But like I'm confident I've got lots to offer that team still. So yeah, hopefully can manage to get a few more in.
Thank you so much for your time, Sam. I feel very overdressed at the moment, but we'll see you back in New Zealand soon.
Yeah, deal.
Sam Cane joining us from Japan. He feels like he still has a lot to give. He's not an old man yet physically or mentally, and he's keen to have one last crack in the All Blacks. He doesn't want to finish how the Rugby World Cup final finished last year, and 5 more tests away from 100, JK. Can he do it, or are you going to be cruel and cut him from the All Blacks in 2024?
Well, I first think we need to talk about how amazing Sam Cane has been, regardless of whether he gets back in, and that's another discussion. And there's a lot riding on that. But he has been an amazing rugby player, Mills. You know, we throw the word resilience around a lot, you know, and he has been incredibly resilient. You know, he broke his neck.
Yeah.
I mean, I just wouldn't even think about playing again. He's been the All Black captain. He's had lots of criticism in that role, you know, and he's continued to get back up and continue to carry on. So the first we've got to go is that no matter what happens, he has been an amazing All Black captain, and he can retire proudly. I think it's the right decision. I think it's a good decision. And he, like you said, he's going to look after his family. He's got 3 years in Japan. Do you pick him? Possibly not.
No fairy tale.
There's no fairy tales in the All Blacks. I think he's still got a lot to offer, but I also think that Razor and his new crew are a new crew. So if you're going to start again, start again. And I think that if he comes back from injury, he's been carrying an injury, it's a little bit higher risk than possibly Ardie. So I think it'd be I wouldn't be surprised if he wasn't picked.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you mentioned about the resilience, but also the complexity of his contract. I mean, to sort of foresee that and have to make that decision 1 year left compared to 3 years, later on, as opposed to coming back and trying to get back into the All Blacks and then seeing what other offers sort of come to him. I tend to agree. I think it's really great that he's refreshed. The hardest part is he's basically coming back, and we've had a whole Super Rugby, and he's going to have to be picked amongst guys that have been in here, playing that level. You're right, there is no fairy tales, but there's also, when you hear him sort of speak, there's opportunity there still. There's still, a chance that he can actually make it, but, he's going to have to do it a little bit harder. But the fact, I totally agree, he has done an exceptional job, and it's pretty tough when you think, he's taking it off Frito, but the person they're actually comparing it to is the GOAT in Richie McCaw. That's pretty hard, and so he's had all that, throughout his career. Yeah. So when you say resilience, that just comes top of mind to Sam Cane.
95 test matches.
Yeah.
95 test matches. You don't get that unless you deserve to play that number for the All Blacks. And his role's changed in the All Blacks over time. He was the captain in waiting, and then he's taken that opportunity. He had to go through some turbulent times. Think of the things he had to deal with the year before the Rugby World Cup. And then if you look at his Rugby World Cup and the impact he had in that tournament, and yes, we can look at the final, but the rest of the games in that tournament, he was outstanding. He returned from injury to that tournament and led the All Blacks to that famous victory against Ireland. But then his role changed where he'd go as hard as he could for as long as he could, and then he'd come off and he'd allow someone else. He would do whatever it takes to help the All Blacks. So I think that's really valuable this year for Scott Robertson, if he feels he needs him. If he feels as though there's any doubt in his own mind about what he might want at open side flanker against England. And if he's fit, available and feeling great and looking like the old Sam Cane, the one that played last year, I'm more than happy with that Sam Cane to put on the All Black jersey this year. And so you start thinking about South Africa in South Africa, all right? He knows what it takes. He's done it. He's been there and done it before. So I think he's well and truly in the mix.
I get that, Goldie, but if
you're looking at the next World Cup already.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what you do.
And
I'm not.
And I do, because I believe if you've got some young guys coming through, Peter Lakai, you've got to start playing them now. We have 3 years to the World Cup, and you've got to start playing them. So emotionally, I'm like you, Kirst. I'd love him to...
He's been a servant. ...to
be in the squad, and I'd love him to reach 100, because as an ex-All Black, I would love to see that happen. But do you pick him as your number one loose forward? Are you going to take two specialists? Does he cover six? He starts to get complicated, the discussion.
Let's talk about this, our loose forward mix then. But just one other thing that Sam mentioned to me, he's gutted that his final game with the Chiefs has already been played, but he is going back into the Chiefs. He's going to help them for as long as they go through the playoff run, so he's going to be an extra body at training to get back up to standard, if that helps. This is the potential All Black loose forwards. Of course, they took 6 or 5 to the Rugby World Cup last year in an extra lock, and Ethan Blackadder ended up coming over for Amoni Narua. This is the season stats in Super Rugby for most of those guys, and the All Black stats for Ardie Savea and Sam Cane. Firstly, how many are you taking in this 32-man squad?
Can I just protest that list? Is that your list, Goldie?
It's not my list.
Okay, there's no Akira.
There's not enough blues players.
There's no Akira Ioane. Right, and right at this stage, I would take Ethan Blackadder out. No disrespect to Ethan, but Ethan has played 8 games of Super Rugby in 2 years. Akira's played most of the games this season, most of the games last season. You can't not put him in that loose forward mix to start with, whether he makes your top 5. And this is really interesting for me. So do you take... Who
are you picking? Come on. Who are you picking? Who have you got right now in your All Black mix? Who's starting? If they're all available.
If I was starting tomorrow, I'd go Dalton at 7.
Of course you would.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, he's incumbent.
He's playing.
Yeah.
I would take a risk on Ardie, although he hasn't been playing in our competition, but I think he comes straight back in. Although I think it's easier for backs to come back in.
Yeah.
Samapene Finau, I would put at 6. And that's my first 3 anyway.
And Hoskins off the bench, which is what you said last week.
Hoskins off the bench. And then...
And who's your extra Lucy?
I just love Peter Lakai at the moment. I just think he's something that we need to get out there.
Right.
Peter Lakai.
Mills?
Is he in your mix, Mills?
I think Peter Lakai goes. I think I love the way he can play all three, 6, 7 and 8. He's young, he's ambitious, he runs hard, he's very clever as well, and he works really well with his loosies. I think you have him in that mix. I've gone for 6 loosies with him in it.
Who else is it? Anyone different to JK?
Well, no. The only person I'd probably put in there is probably Luke Jacobson. I think he offers a bit more of that grunt at number 8. If you need him. I'm not picking a starting, but if I had to pick a starter, I'd be. I mean, I mentioned that last week before Sam actually said this, that I'd probably put Hoskins at 8 and move Artie to 7 and let Artie concentrate on that sort of fetching role. He's always had that as part of his game, but he's had to sort of evolve into this sort of ball runner. So I think you can have Hoskins do that. I think Hoskins' skill set is amazing, and then at 6, that's going to be pretty tough.
Who is it?
I think either Dalton or Sami Penifino. I think you move Dalton to 6.
Grenades.
Grenades. If I'm going to play England, I either want Dalton Papali'i at open side or I want Sam Cane. If he's fit and available and ready to go and been doing the work with the Chiefs and he plays some games, I want those 2 guys as an open side flanker. We need the big body. We need people who understand how to stop them with the advantage line. That's exactly what they do, and they are relentless. I've got Sammy Penny, I've got Artie, and I've got Hoskins. Hoskins has been too good to ignore, and I have to see a future for Peter Lakai. I'm taking 6 as well. I'm finding a way. We are under pressure at lock, though. That's another discussion. We need to find our 4th locks from somewhere, given the fact of what we'd lost. And that means we don't have the... Scott Barrett's no longer a 6. Tupavai is no longer a 6 because we need them at lock. Patrick Tupulotu is a lock. So we need some versatility. We need to find someone for that 4th spot. But Peter Lakai, to me, it's one of those things you talk about and we're not prepared to maybe expand. If we have to develop some guys in the short term, we need to get them in the All Blacks. We need to get them at training. And if we have to... 32, 33, 34, that's an investment in the future about what we're doing. Because once you finish Super, right, what is there for those players after that? You're either in the All Blacks or you're going back to NPC, the odd Māori New Zealand or Māori All Black game.
You go overseas.
Exactly. You need to invest in some of these young guys, and I see it.
And that's where I think when push comes to shove, it might cost Sam.
It may do, and that's where it's hard on Luke Jacobson. I'm just saying that there's some...
I mean, it might be hard on Luke, so you take Sam for the championship and you might leave someone like Luke out because you want to get Peter Lakai in because he's not going to play unless the second 15 have got a couple of games.
Well, that's a luxury he's got, right? You pick a younger, even if you went the other way, pick Lakai in there if it was a younger Lucy, and if they don't quite cut it, well, Sam's still there for the latest sort of stuff, right? And you bring them sort of back in to steal things up if you're under pressure as a coach.